Are we on? Are we on? Yes. Welcome back, babes. We are heating up the season. What season? Everybody's favorite season, election season. Civic elections come every 4 years, and I never thought it would consume my attention more than the World Cup of football, yet here we are. If you're new here, I'm Patty Weens.
And I'm Sam Biko, and we're the Ballot Babes. This is the podcast for the political newbie, the soccer moms and the dads, the transit nerd, the yimbies, the former or current NIMBYs, and even those who have no idea what I just said. It doesn't matter, because we want you to grab your beverage of choice, have a seat, because we have a great episode coming up for you today.
Yes, we will be talking to Transcona City Councillor candidate Lora Meseman today. And we have St. James candidate Tyler Crichton and River Heights candidate Sarah MacArthur already lined up to record this week, and they'll be featured in future episodes. Also, if you're new here and you're expecting some kind of unbiased take on civic politics, I'm sorry, not sorry to disappoint you. We are not here for that kind of We are here because we believe that now more than ever, it is the time to be biased toward a livable planet that starts right here, just outside our doors, in our local or civic politics.
Yeah, so don't add us in the comments. Don't tell us we're wrong just because we're telling you right now that these are our opinions, our preferences, and our right to want a city that is safe, pleasant, and a good place to live for our children of all ages, our elderly parents, and, just so that we can have nice things. Isn't it nice to have nice things? I think we all want that. So whether you're 8 or 80, what is good for you is good for everyone. So let's just remember that.
I just love that. Thank you, Sam, for, just allowing this space here for us to get this off our chest. It's been a rough week in Facebook comments ever since we posted this list right here of Labor endorsed candidates. And yeah, it's rough.
It's always interesting to see people come out and react to something like that as if they don't benefit from what labor unions have fought for decades. And then say, well, I'm not going to vote for anyone on that list. Well, okay.
No, that list, that's the list I'm going to follow, so I don't vote for these people because I'm crusty and I'm old and I don't want workers' rights.
Yeah, I really do want to go back to the 18-hour workday, I think, because the times were just better then.
Yeah.
But, I also want to say that this list is not a final list or a definitive list. This list, as new candidates come up and register, will be ongoing all the way up until the election. But can you tell us why it's important to look at why the Labor Council, like who they endorse, Patty?
I think that once the Labor Council endorses someone, it means that they align with their not just their politics, but their vision for a city that's equitable, that for workers' rights and anything that's really aligned with the labor principles.
Exactly. So
yeah, it's a good list. And if you are a candidate and you're not in these areas, St. James, Daniel McIntyre, Minarski, or North Kildonan, you can actually apply for labor endorsement if your vision for a city aligns with labor principles. So go ahead and contact the Labor Council and see if you can be eligible to apply. I mean, I think that's a good idea. There's also the Labor endorsed school trustee candidates on there. I don't know if they limit this or not, but it's not a final list. And we will be updating you as this list gets updated as well. And it actually gave me an idea. I was thinking that we should have our own list. What do you think? Sometime in early October?
Yeah, because it's really funny. People have been listening to this podcast and coming up to us and asking our opinions about candidates out of the blue. It's almost as if we read up and we follow this stuff really closely, and our opinions and insights matter to people who vote. So I think it is totally fair that we make our own list. So
we'll make our own list. We'll circle all our favorite candidates. And you know what? It's only fair. Maybe it's not fair for everyone. But hey, if you don't like it, You can start your own podcast, am I right? I mean, it's so easy. Even two babes can do it.
It is. It's free will is a hell of a thing. So just get a camera off of Amazon and just start yapping. And you can do this too. Again, no one's paying us. No one is fronting. There is no shadow liberal cabal who is funding us.
We do have our Patreon supporters, and if you are one of our supporters, we really appreciate you. You are helping us pay for the costs of producing, the costs of hosting the podcast, of editing. Not our time, but that's okay. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your support. And if you are new here and you would like to support us, you can do it for as little as $5 Canadian per month. Just go to balladbabes.com and click on support on Patreon. But enough about that, Sam. We have some crazy ass news this week, and we are here for it. First, the most shocking news of all, Councillor Sherri Rollins has dropped out of the race for the Fort Rouge East Fort Garry ward. Sam, do you think she got mad because I screwed up my PowerPoint slideshow a couple of episodes back? Do you
yes,
think that's
it was all the PowerPoint's job. No, Patty. If anyone here who is listening has met or spent time with Sherri, she has been a really devoted counselor in her seat for 2 terms now. This would have been her 3rd term, I think.
Yeah.
And she was actually my introduction to speaking to counselors. You know, you send out these mass emails whenever you have an issue with the city. You really never get a response. And Sherri was the only one who phoned me and actually had a human conversation with me and made me feel like a little spark of hope that there are people sitting, you know, in that council chamber who actually do want to engage with people on the issues. And, you know, she's always been very kind every time you and I have come to City Hall for various things.
I've called her on her before too, and she didn't hold it against me. You know, I kind of told her, I can't believe this and blah, blah, blah. And then she kind of got mad at me. And then I reached out to her and apologized, and she forgave me. She didn't hold a grudge. So it's really, she's going to be missed. I mean, reading the Free Press interview is interesting. She said she decided to withdraw her registration to run for another term because of her concern that Gillingham's office increasingly sidelines the public service. Shocker. She said she and other councillors have struggled to set up meetings with the mayor's office on issues such as public safety, affordability, and homelessness. As a councillor, I have come to believe that I can no longer do the work in the way I think should be done. It looks increasingly like an executive team that is valuing compliance and not fearless advice to council, she said. Gillingham said Friday he wished her well in her future endeavors. Councillor Rollins and I worked well together on a lot of issues, he said, but we didn't always agree. Disagreement is a normal, healthy part of public life, he said in a statement. My job as a mayor is to work with every member of council in good faith, find good common ground where it exists, and make the decision our city needs, even when they're not unanimous. Okay, Scotty, but there are 5 city councillors who are not coming back. What is going on at City Hall? This does not look good for Scott Gillingham. The babes have reached out to Councillor Rollins to come on the show and tell us everything, but we haven't heard back yet. So, Councillor Sherri Rollins, if you're listening or watching, can you please give us a call? Girl, we need to talk.
Yeah, I find it very interesting, that part of his statement where he says, we can find common ground where it exists, which basically says that he doesn't really believe common ground exists with Sherri. And, you know, Sherri has had her share of issues with the public and her own image. But I would say that her assessment of this lack of the mayor allowing councillors who represent major wards in this city is fair. We've talked about it before, about the strong mayor model, about the mayor's executive policy committee, about how there are, it's 6 members who seem to have the most power, which doesn't really seem like a representative government with a city that experiences a lot of disparity in all of its regions. Something that is really on my mind is thinking ahead and looking at these councillors who are running and thinking how they're going to collaborate. It's all well and good to have a counselor who's very good at representing your ward, but how do they work with the other wards? I couldn't imagine going to work every day for 4 years and not being able to work with my coworkers. That sounds quite exhausting, especially with a boss, a mayor, who doesn't want the coworkers to work together. And I find that to be quite chilling and, as Sherri has pointed out in the past, autocratic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can tell I'm getting serious because I switched to my red glasses. I just needed to. But let's do a little update here on the mayoral candidates. I'm just going to show you here right now what we have for registered candidates. We have 10 mayoral candidates right now.
That's too
And
many.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry to say we don't really have. I'm sorry, guys, but we don't really have a real contender here for Papa Scotty. What do we need in order to give Scott Gillingham a run for his money? We need someone who has a recognizable name, is known and loved by the community, isn't a raging lunatic, and
The minimum, the bare minimum.
bare minimum. And it would really help if they have experience in either politics or public service. So it's a tall order, but a girl can dream, right? More updates here. We have 2 candidates that are still uncontested, and that is Cindy Gilroy for Daniel McIntyre and Evan Duncan for Charleswood, Tuxedo, Westwood. I don't like it. I'm serious. We need a candidate in Charleswood, Tuxedo, and Westwood at least. Vivian,
Don't look at me.
No. I'm looking at you, but I get it, girl. I get it. It's a lot of work. Look at all these candidates here popping up. We do finally have a candidate that is running against Vivian Santos. She has competition. And now, speaking of Counselor Santos, I wanted to give her a quick shout out this week because she sent us both emails inviting us to the groundbreaking of the phase 2 of the Northwest Hydro Corridor. And thank you, Counselor Santos. I really wanted to be there, but real job and all. However, Ian McCausland was there and made sure to capture the moments for posterity. So if you're listening to this episode instead of watching it, you're missing out on the pictures. But let's see here some of the pictures of this groundbreaking ceremony.
Patty, can you explain what the Northwest Hydro Corridor is?
Patty can explain. The Northwest Hydro Corridor is essentially what used to be just hydroland that runs north south on the west side of the Red River. And it was basically empty hydroland. And the city has been working for 10 years on transforming this into a multi-use path. And it's a deluxe path. Like, they inaugurated the other part of it last year, and it's beautiful. It's just completely separated away from traffic, and it will be connecting. Here's Mark Coho and Scott Gillingham. Here's all the crew, but it will be connecting. Oh no! It's Janice in her shovel. Everybody, Auntie Janice in her shovel. See, she's getting shit done. That's it right there. But it will be really vital because it connects all the way. It will connect from Leela to Selkirk in an area that's really underserved for multi-use paths, bike lanes, and just a safe way for people to go by bike or to walk in that area. So it's really actually quite welcome in the community. It's been a collaboration with Hydro and the local councillors, like you see there, Vivian Santos, Devi Sharma. That's their words. This path is going from Old Kildonan into Point Douglas. And then you see there Mayor Scott Gillingham. I am sorry to say I don't know everyone in this picture, but Janice Lukes is chair of public works. So Janice Lukes actually had a lot to do with this. She has been really trying to get this done for years and years and years, even before she was a counselor. So, credit where credit is due. Janice and her shovel, getting shit done.
Yeah, and you know what? Everyone, as we said, we just put a disclaimer on this episode, our unbiased opinion. We are always excited for anything that has to do with not cars and
Not
getting
cars.
people around. And 10 years, wow, that's a long time. That's a long time to get this one corridor put in there, but we are very grateful.
Yes.
So thank you to those folks who made it happen.
Well, Sam, you had a little update from a local Facebook group about my favorite city councilor. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, so this is a questionnaire. It's called the CBC Quick Check Candidate Guide that counselors or would-be counselors at the time filled out. It was like a little snapshot that voters could look at, and you could just get a very, very quick idea of what their platform was, what was important to them. This is from 2006. These were standard questions that CBC asked every candidate, and some people, as this post from Addison Thomas said, some people may have liked his responses to this questionnaire at the time, but regardless, note that he campaigned on city councilors having term limits. My favorite thing. Which means that councilors can't occupy those seats forever and ever and ever, amen, and affect policy for a city for a quarter of a decade, which is a huge amount of time to hold the city hostage in nice terms. So if Brawadi wins in North Kildonan this year, it will be his 6th term. That's 24 years. That's insane. But it's just really funny that at the time in 2006, when he was campaigning, he said term limits are ridiculous. This is the same man who also said recently that people should drive however fast they feel comfortable driving. And just all kinds of things. He runs his own neighborhood Facebook group, which seems like a conflict of interest. So we are really excited that Orvie Dingwall announced last week, a week and a half ago, that she is a registered candidate for North Kildonan, because we really do, I feel, need a little bit of freshness on council in that ward.
Yes, and I ultimately just want him to have nightmares about me forever and ever.
You know what? As soon as he told you that you shouldn't have moved there because North Kildonan is for cars and not for bikes, he should have known better.
He really should have known better. But that's okay. We'll get back to that. We just need to make sure that, someone who's like, think about it. Some of the people in this ward were like 4 years old or not born, were babies when Jeff Brawadi was elected. That is a really long time. They don't know any different. And also, Jeff Brawadi has never had a job that's not a politician. So that's the other thing to keep in mind if you're in North Kildonan. But, enough about Jeffy, enough about us. We have a special guest today, and we need to get to her. Welcome to the show today to Transcona candidate and babe for the day, Lora Meseman. Welcome here, Lora.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you both.
It's great. Great to have you. We're going to keep this interview casual, but we need to touch on a few things. We'll be taking turns asking you some questions and, we're just getting to know a little bit about you. We've been talking to other candidates as well. And last week, or whenever it was that we released our last episode, I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore. We talked to Natalie Smith. And Natalie is one of the candidates in Minarski, and you are the candidate that we reached out to for the Transcona ward. Now, you must be feeling pretty special because we are not accepting interviews from just anyone right now. So welcome here.
Thank you. Yes, I feel special for sure.
Okay, awesome. So why don't you just tell a little bit about yourself right now? Like, what do you do for work? What are your pets, your hobbies? Tell us.
Awesome. Absolutely. I hate to talk about myself personally, but I'm going to tell you what I do for a living. So I work outside the home. I am the executive director of an organization. It's called the General Council of Winnipeg Community Centers. And our organization is a nonprofit organization, and we work closely with the city of Winnipeg. And so I took this role about 5 years ago after being on the board of directors and volunteering with a community center in Transcona for 15 years. I have supported community centers and community spaces since my kids were young. So since 2002, I got involved with volunteering. I was a volunteer soccer coach, and then I was the convener and moved my way through the community center, eventually becoming the president of the board. And that experience has taught me a lot about working with the city of Winnipeg. And my role now, I work really closely with the public service, often with councillors and with the mayor's office. So I love what I do. It's become a passion of mine. But my background really was marketing and advertising, studied public relations and communications. So I'm taking all of those tools and using them in my day to day.
That's awesome. And don't be shy about talking about yourself. You have to
Mm.
sell yourself here.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
you
true.
really do. So how long have you lived in Transcona?
I moved there when I was 15. So it's been well over 40 years. I left for a little while to go to college. And in true Transcona form, most of us moved back. So we moved back and I raised 4 sons and raised my boys. I was a single mom for quite a number of years and we grew up together, the boys and I. They went to middle school, elementary school, middle school, all the schools in Transcona. And again, they played sports. So there I was at Oxford Heights, and that really was my why I got involved. I met and married my husband at Oxford Heights Community Center at the community center. It was really fun. He was a
Wow.
volunteer. Yep. We got married in our backyard and had a reception at the community center. So again, community is a real big passion for me, and my boys have followed suit. They're quite involved in their communities as well. So yeah, I've lived there, 40 some years, and I still live there now. So together we have 6 kids, and our family is born and bred Transconians.
Amazing.
Wow. That honestly, yep. Check, check, check. It just sounds like you're really connected and that you really love the area and that you would be a really good representative of the area. So like to you, what makes Transcona special that, you've like built your entire life there?
Community. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, but that's fine. I think we have a very strong community for a very long time. It wasn't part of the city. And then in 1971, when Unicity was formed, Transcona became part of the city. We actually paved the road to downtown Winnipeg.
Wow.
We really still, though, have that rural, small town feel. It feels like a separate community all of itself, like we're outside of the city of Winnipeg. We're very connected, although the ward is quite expanded. It's very large. It goes all the way to Springfield Road, right down to Fermor and Lagimode, and we have an area called Southland Park that is part of our ward. They were added to the ward back in 2018 when they redid the boundaries. And we go as east to the perimeter and as west to Lagimode. So even though I say it's a small town feel, we're large. We have a large population, and the Transcona ward is fairly extensive.
Do you feel like there are some areas, because it is so extensive, that are being currently underserved, Lora?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. As we expand, it's going to be a challenge. There is a planned development in South Transcona. The area is called South Transcona. It's actually south of Dukeold. That community is trees and lots of land and big properties, and it is really underserved by the city of Winnipeg. They need, as they develop it, they're going to need to create sewer and water connections. Like a lot of them are on wells, and they have big properties. So they don't want to see the city encroach in there, but it is really part of the city. That is underserved. Southland Park, as I mentioned, because they're so far removed, they often get forgotten, and they feel that way, and that's very frustrating for them. And, we're expanding even to the east, and we're creating all these new communities. which I understand. We need housing, and I understand that. But what we're not doing is we're not connecting infrastructure. We're not connecting trails. We're not connecting community spaces. We need those areas that we can get together and gather and be part of community. And I think that's a really key part of my campaign, is having those safe spaces where folks can gather and feel like they belong. It's part of our mental health and in supporting all of those elements as we age, including infrastructure.
We went for a long bike ride last year, just along all of Transcona, taking the trail and then the parks. And I remember thinking, like, there were so many new Canadians. There are so many people outside at the
Yes,
parks. I was
yes.
like, did I miss a memo? Like, is there a party going on? And there's so many people enjoying the outdoors. And I thought, this is vibrant. There is something going on in Transcona here. This is so exciting. There's so much growth. Do you
Yeah,
feel that?
I do feel that. It's a huge part. Right around where the Costco is on Regent, there's a
Yeah.
lot of development in there. And there's quite a number of Nigerians who've moved into the area. A lot of folks from Africa are immigrating to Canada. I just met and celebrated with them on Sunday. They invited me to their outdoor party at Park City Community Center. They had music going on. They invited me to dance, and they had food, and they had games for the kids. It was really invigorating, really lovely. We have a lot of newcomers in the area. And if I can, I'll add that I also teach at the University of Winnipeg in the PACE program, the Professional Applied Continued Education. And most of my students are newcomers, brilliant, lovely people. And they're coming to Canada and coming to Winnipeg to grow their careers and, have their family live here. We have a lot of really great people who are moving to our city.
Yeah, and they are choosing sort of some of these further out suburban areas to settle, and they're creating these communities, and they need to be served. And sometimes I remember from door knocking in past times that, you'd open the door and the first thing someone would say to you, "Oh, I can't vote yet." And you're like, that's okay, because we still need, whether you vote or not, the city councilor will be your city councilor. Right? You still are responsible to ensure their quality of life.
And to make sure that they feel included, Patty. It is something that we talk a lot about with our community centers. We have community centers that have been around for 50 some years, and they have the same boards that have been around for a long time. And we're really trying to include folks, encourage community center boards to create inclusion policies so that they're inviting those newcomers into the community center. And so they see themselves in that space. And here I was celebrating with a group of people who have come from Nigeria, who want to belong, and they're celebrating outside a community center. That's really important. I agree.
Lora, is this the first time you've run for council?
Yes. Yeah, it is
Yes.
my first time. Not my first
Wow.
time working with the city of Winnipeg, though.
No.
Certainly running for council, it's my first time, but now's the time.
Yeah. What kind of made you just kind of have that spark and be like, yep, it's going to be me. I'm going to do this?
It's been a long decision. I'll be honest, I've been asked before, but as I mentioned, I have 4 sons, and I was raising my family and working full time and volunteering and doing all the things that I was doing. And I didn't see myself in that role at that point. But about a year and a half ago, I was asked by a good friend of mine if I would consider running, because they felt strongly that I would make a change for my community. And I thought long and hard about it, talked to my husband about it, talked to my family about it. It really took a long time to get to the point where I thought, yes, it should be me, and I am going to run. I felt strongly that our community is underserved, is not being heard. We are not being represented in a way that most people that I'm talking to feel that we should be represented. We need a counselor that shows up. We need a counselor that's going to listen, and we need a counselor that is going to ensure that everyone is at the table as much as possible. I realize that sounds a little bit much, but really those voices need to be at the table. And it's not about me. It's about our community, and it's about our city, and that we are the owners of the city. So we should have a say, but it never felt like we quite had that say. So that's what put me over the edge.
And also like, you say, I was busy raising my family. I was busy volunteering. You were busy building up that, that experience in the public service. And raising a family is just as exhausting as working as a counselor to manage your ward and work with other wards within the city. So you've certainly been not only building up that experience that we need public servants to have when they attempt to take these seats, but also the insights into knowing like what your community needs. So thank you so much for registering. I know how hard of a decision it is as well, especially when you spent so much time in the community and volunteering.
Thank you.
Lora, Councillor Wyatt has not registered yet, has he?
No. As of yesterday, no.
No, as of right now, he also has not registered yet. And how do you feel, though, if he does? Like, running against an incumbent is a lot of work.
Sure. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Whatever.
For the folks
honestly,
listening, Laura's just shaking her head.
I will be honest. I made the decision to run because I assumed he was going to be the incumbent. So that didn't change my mind. So the developments after March didn't mean anything to me because I'd already decided to run. I worked really well with Russ, and he has a lot of respect for me, as he explained to me when we talked about the fact that I was going to run. I appreciate that, but it's now time. We need a change. We need a change, period, but we need a change in Transcona. There's no question. So it doesn't matter to me. If he decides to run, great. It's just one more gentleman that I'll be running against, and I'll keep knocking on doors.
Love it. I saw that you have been hanging out at the Transcona trails, and it's probably one of the things that referred you to our podcast, because you were telling me you had someone stop and say, you have to listen to this podcast if you want to know anything. And thank you, Karen, for the referral. That's amazing. But what have you learned from, like, did you find that was useful, standing at the trail instead of door knocking for, those couple hours that you were out there? What is the difference? What have you heard from the community, both there at the Transcona Trail and from knocking on doors?
Well, you're right. I did meet Karen, and she definitely is an inspiration for something that I want to talk about today. But I will say I was already listening to you before that, and I had met you at the Empowering Women in Politics. So I was listening to the Ballot Babes, and I find it super important to hear what you guys are talking about, and also helpful. But nonetheless, what I'm hearing on the trail, and the reason that I did that, it's July. Folks are in their backyard. They're at the cabin or they're camping. They're not answering the door. So sure, we can drop off flyers and I can knock on doors. So maybe every 20 doors, I talk to 2 or 3 people, maybe. But when we went on the trail, we took cold water and freezies, and I had little cards that I could introduce myself to folks, and they were really interested. And one of the comments I received is, this is way better than you knocking on my door, because I don't want to answer my door. And I think people are uncomfortable. They don't know who's knocking on their door, and there's lots going on. But when I parked my butt by Plessy's and the trail, what I heard was, I love my community because I'm so connected. I can bike, I can walk to my grocery store, I can bike 15 minutes away and get to where I need to go. They've got access to their grocery stores. They've got access to the pharmacy. They've got access to their doctor. Like, creating those type of 15-minute travel communities makes sense because everything is there. So you don't need to get in your car and go places. So I love the trail. We use the trail regularly. My husband and I, he's a walker. He's a get up at 5:30 in the morning, walk on the trail guy. Not me, but whatever. So yeah, it's been a great experience. Actually, it's invigorating to talk to folks on the trail if they stop and chat. I had more success doing that.
That's so cool. That's good to know. That's a pointer, I guess, for some of our listeners as well who are running, in other words. Not Transcona guys, you can just do your thing. Let Lora do her thing. Lora, tell us a little bit what your main points are in your platform.
So I haven't posted my platform yet on my website, but I am, I've got a few pieces that I am willing to share now. We're going to launch it next week. But what I'm hearing for community is they want safer streets, safe the safe city, safe Transcona. I get that part. And what safety means to me is the infrastructure, roads. They want to feel safe in their homes. They want to feel safe as they walk around. People are very compassionate. They're very concerned about our unsheltered folks. We want to be able to support the unsheltered folks and have the right help in place. So definitely for me, a safe city and a sustainable city. And when I say sustainable city, we don't have any infrastructure dollars. We don't have a capital budget that is exceeding millions and millions of dollars that we can access. So what are we doing to ensure that the infrastructure that we do have is maintained and repaired? And are we doing this in a thoughtful way? What about finances? Are we doing smart investing? Are we making decisions that are financially sound? I will say from my experience with community centers, we're so underfunded because our buildings are aging. So we continue to expand and build, but that means investing in infrastructure. So what do we do with housing? I had this conversation with a woman. I hate infill housing, but think about it logically. If we build already in a community that has the infrastructure, we're not having to put sewer and water out in the middle of nowhere to connect. We're already got that infrastructure in a community already. And can we make our community build it up and have a more sustainable way? And then also, for me, and especially trees are important. Great green space is important. Let's not asphalt over everything. So I know that's really loose, but those are the conversations I'm having. They want
You had me at hello.
Doesn't take much for Patty.
You're saying all the right things. Trees, existing
Green
infrastructure,
spaces,
green spaces.
yeah.
I mean, can we talk about how we cannot ignore this anymore, right?
No.
We need the green spaces. It's enough. You cannot pave over everything.
Well, and can I use an example? We are working with community centers to help them maintain community spaces. And there's often this request to asphalt over outdoor rinks, because then we can create more multi-use out of an outdoor rink, which I think is great. But the problem is, how do we deal with drainage? So those are things that we need to be continually considering. If we're going to build a parking lot, we're going to asphalt over it. What about drainage? Where's the water going to go? What are we covering over? What are we hiding? What about, the creatures that live in the space? And we just have to think about a sustainable city, and we have to continue to ensure that we'll be here forever. I have grandchildren. I want them to live in a city that's safe and sustainable. And also, we're dealing with climate change. So what are we doing to ensure that the infrastructure that we have is going to last? Don't get me started on my grandchildren.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And also, for yourself, creating a city that you want to stay in forever. Yes. And you don't want to be well, everything is crumbling around me. It's super unaffordable. I pay taxes and it doesn't really go to improving my quality of life. So why would I continue to live here? That is kind of on a lot of people's minds. You always, you have built your entire life in Transcona. You don't want to leave. You want to keep putting your money into it, the community, as well as just your labor into making it better for everyone else. We all just dream of setting down roots and staying there. So the city should want that.
They should. And can I add this too? I think, as we age, we want to age in place. And so the city municipal government is not responsible for hospitals and institutions like home care homes, etc., but we are responsible for active living. And there, as we age, we want folks to walk on the trails. We want them to be able to go to a community center or a recreational center to stay active and to engage with community, because it helps keep you healthy. So that also allows you to age in place. So we need to be thinking about what we can do as a city to ensure that our community can age in place, so that they don't need to go to a hospital necessarily or be moved to a care home. And, I had to move my dad to a care home. I understand that there will be that need, but in 2031, 1 in 4 Canadians will be 65 years and better. What are we doing to ensure that they're active and they are better and that they can live those long lives in their homes that they've invested in? So I feel strongly about recreation and leisure.
Is there anything else in your platform that you'd like to highlight today, Lora?
Gosh, there's so many things. I'm just trying to narrow them down. I will have it available on our website.
Well, we're going to
Early
link your
next week.
website.
Yeah,
We're going to
please.
link to your website. And we also want to do sort of a end of season or mid-season review of everybody's, platform points so that people are informed as they're voting. And of course, we will be 100% biased because that's where we live. We live in the bias of wanting a livable city. But Lora, let's talk about the elephant in the room. There is a pressing issue.
He looks around.
This blurred, so you couldn't see my background. Okay, had nothing to do with that.
Not that. There is a pressing issue in your area. The road through the dog park. And I was told in no uncertain terms that I had to ask you about it. Are you for it or against it, or is it more complicated?
Yeah, that is the elephant in the room. I was asked shortly after I registered as a candidate about that, and I'm aware of the plans. That plan has been in place, and we're talking about Kilcona Park, which is just north of Harborview South, which is where I live. So we use that park regularly, and we used to walk our dogs there. I will say I don't do that anymore. My dog was very reactive, and it wasn't a good scene, so we haven't gone to the dog park for a long time. But I understand the concept and the planning, and I did do some additional research. I know that the plan is to develop that area, and I am fully in support of a multi-use space. As I mentioned, I've talked a lot about recreation and leisure. That's important to me. It's something that I'm very passionate about, but I'm also very passionate about listening to what people need and what they want. Let's be clear, there is a landfill there. That hill isn't a natural hill, it is a landfill. So whatever we do, we need to be very cautious, and we need to be sure that we're not disturbing whatever is underneath that landfill. So I am in support of active transportation. I'm in support of pathways and improving it so that more people can use the space. But I hear what the dog park folks are saying, and no, I don't want to see a road through a dog park. It's no more logical to me than, the dog park being open till Lajimode. And a friend of mine lost her dog that way, took after a rabbit, and, wasn't enclosed, so lost the dog. I think that we need to be thoughtful in our approach. I have not heard anything different, though, and I do understand that they're tearing down the infrastructure in the park. That beautiful architectural building has to be taken down. That's frustrating. I used to take my kids there for picnics. There used to be a pirate ship there, and we used to take our food and supper, and as a single mom, you got to do something fun, and they used to play there all the time. And so that's the problem. We run to failure. And what are we going to do that's going to improve that park and ensure that everyone can enjoy it? I want to see that. So I'm willing to listen. I have had a couple of conversations, and no, I don't want to see the dog park cut off, but what's the solution so that it makes it safe for everyone? That's probably where I'm leaning towards right now, is just understanding more. And I would never say, yes, let's put a road through a dog park.
Well, we're working to make sure that committee meeting, that's going to be the Eastwood, the Elmwood East Kildonan, the North Kildonan, and the Transcona committee meeting is all women.
Okay.
Damn it. We're going to get all the women in there, and then you guys can figure it out, because women can figure these things out. And there are some really intelligent people running. So
I agree. And I also want to say that there are really intelligent people who are standing up and saying no to this. So, they use the park. And so let's be respectful. Let's figure out a way that we can do this that is not going to impact everyone. Will there be impacts? Probably somewhere along the way, but what does that look like? And let's communicate. My 100% behind communication. And right now, Transcona has zero communication.
Sam, do you want to ask anything from that other list? From Dylan's list?
Yes.
Thank you, Dylan, for sending all these very, very, very great nerdy questions. We love it.
Yeah, we won't keep you for too much longer. There are just these hot button topics that a lot of people, are really dialed in on this election. And one of them is Winnipeg's transportation system, which includes like mode share and infrastructure choices. Like you talked about, putting a road through a park for cars seems a little seems a little counterintuitive too, especially the city has in writing these very specific goals around transportation, and also Winnipeg Transit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like spending time on Facebook anymore. I am so close to deleting Facebook because of just the way people are talking and thinking and being rabid about the new Winnipeg transit system. But I want to just kind of ask you, what are your priorities about Winnipeg Transit? Any changes you personally would make? And if there are, what is your understanding or dream of the resources that it would take to make those changes happen?
I will comment on the new transportation or the transit system. I'm very aware of the difficulties. It used to take an hour to take the bus downtown for me in my community. It's now 2 transfers and almost an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's if traffic is good, right?
Oh my God.
Wow.
So I'm
That's
going to be
crazy.
I'm going to be very transparent. I do not take the bus to work at all. I don't, and I also don't ride my bike to work because I'm afraid to. So I work downtown. I need my car to get to work. I need my car to get around for my job. But my sons rely heavily on transportation. And when my youngest son was living with us, he relied heavily on bike paths to get to where he needed to go on his bike safely to university. So I'm very much in favor of improving the system that we have now. We cannot go back to the old system. We can't go back to the old system. It's like $54 million to go back if we were. That makes zero sense to me. Again, going back to the way we're investing and spending our money. But we need to improve, and we need to improve it slowly. And I know a few counselors who've been receiving complaints and concerns, and they've been working internally with the folks in the public service to improve the system. Of course, there's some issues. We need to improve that. We also need, I believe, we need to connect the east-west. So we have the transit corridor that goes to the university. I've been on that. It's great. It's fast. It's speedy. We need to be able to go both ways. So if I think about visiting my son in Montreal and my other son in Vancouver when they were going to university there, we would get on the subway. We would get on a form of transportation. And if we're going to continue to grow, we need to improve the way we get around the city. And it can't just be with cars, because God only knows. I hear so many complaints about the congestion with cars. And is that because we need to build more roads? No, we need to make it easier for folks to get around, whether that's on a active transportation, or improving our transit. 100%.
You're making me hot.
Wow. Wow.
You're saying all the right things. I absolutely
know.
agree. And when you get your new job, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you
yeah.
how to get to work from where you are in a way that won't be
Rationality
scary.
and logic is just so important in this election.
Can I just share one little quick story? I knocked on the door last night and was talking to a gentleman who lives in my area, and he works by the airport, and he really wants to take his bike, but it's a long ways, but also he's willing to do that. But he's not willing to do that because it's not safe to do that. And that's the sweet spot. We need to be able to connect those dots. We need to connect the trails so folks can feel safe, and so that we're not having issues with, bike lanes, all these other things. That we need to make sure that we've got the opportunity for everyone to get around in the way that they want to get around. And it's more sustainable. Comes back to my platform, a sustainable city.
Yes. And the conversation around that transportation infrastructure piece is often, you want to take my car away from me by building a bike lane. When the reality is there are numerous people in the city who do want their cars to be eliminated from their lives. And they are like that person. They're willing to do that. They are willing to say, take my car from me. And then the people who need the cars, now you have a clear runway, because my car has now been deleted from the equation because I can use these other options. And I'm willing to use those other options. And no one's trying to take anything away from anyone. We're just trying to make things better for the people who do need it. So it's also just reframing that idea for a lot of citizens to get them on board.
You had another thing that you said you wanted to share a story when I mentioned Karen. Was there something there that you wanted to share?
It was really about what she shared with me, and I did kind of blend that into my answer, and that was really that she deliberately chose an apartment that was going to be in a space of the city in Transcona where she could get around without having to use a car. And so she got rid of her car. And so I think that that's exactly what we want people to do. I live in an area of Transcona where there is nothing really around us. We do have a trail, but it's not connected to the main part of Transcona or the core part of Transcona. So we can get from where we are to Henderson Highway easily or to Gateway, but there really isn't the same kind of amenities that are around us. And as we're building out our communities, we need to be more thoughtful about how we're approaching what we're building. I understand the developer is going to develop the homes, but what are we doing for the green space? What are we doing for the recreational space? What are we doing for the amenities that the community that will live there will need so that they're not always having to drive, further down to Regent and Lagimodiere to get to what they need. Anyways, that was what I'm seeing on the trail as I'm talking to people. They just want to be able to stay in their bubble, if you will.
That is true. Do we have one more question you want to ask, Sam, before we let Lora go?
No, there's just so much. I never want to let you go, Lora. I hope we don't have to let you go for 4 years. This one, Dylan is really passionate, the person who's sent us some of these questions about housing needs. He's writing a book on it currently about Winnipeg and zoning. So as Winnipeg, as you mentioned, we continue to grow, and in the coming years, we're going to just be even bigger than we currently are. What would be your ideal plan for accommodating the housing needed for population growth? And what approaches would you take to development and zoning in historically single family only neighborhoods, Transcona?
I think I touched a little bit about that. I know that I will say that a lot of people in Transcona, it's very suburban. Many of the homes are single family dwellings. We did have a development show up in our area that folks were really struggling with. It's a 4-level apartment block, and it's right on the corner of Lagimodiere and Grassy Boulevard. It just, folks are really frustrated because it disrupts the look and feel of their neighborhood, but also increases traffic and the concerns about parking and where they're going to be. But I think we need to be thoughtful in the approach. We need to be communicating to folks. We need to ensure that when homes are aging and need to be shuttered, that we're replacing them with something that can house more than just one family. So maybe that's a 2-story, maybe it's a 4-plex. But again, I come back to that infrastructure. Infill housing is important. It's one thing to expand, but we need to be developing in a way that we can support the infrastructure for. I really am new to the whole housing. I understand the accelerator fund, and I understand the need to build another 82,000 homes. I've watched the news. I'm familiar with it. I've been at council meetings, but it is an area that I need to strengthen for sure. But my approach is a logical approach, I would hope, and I'll learn more and I'll listen and get to understand that a lot more. If we want to talk about community and infrastructure and community centers, I'm all over that. And I'm also, in terms of how I'm going to approach my being a counselor, I'm going to listen and learn. I expect that's going to happen. That's going to be much needed.
Man,
I'm not sure that answers it.
Humility too.
I don't know.
It's too much.
I don't know. It's too much. It's too much. I don't know if we can post this one.
Okay. All right. We'll cancel.
Lora, it's been really great talking to you. I appreciate your time, and we're excited to see what else you're going to come up with. We're going to link to your website in the show notes, and we'll sort of circle back closer to the election and see how things are going for you. Is there anything you want to end with?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really, honestly, I appreciate it. I will say I've learned a lot from your podcast. I had I've really struggled with the infrastructure investment and capital dollars. It frustrates the heck out of me when I see volunteers struggling to find funding so that they can fix a building that the city owns, but in reality, we own. So, kudos to the volunteers that are out there, and not just community center volunteers. We have thousands of volunteers right across the city, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to them, because without them, honestly, a lot of these buildings would already have fallen apart.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lora. And I'd also just like to say to our listeners, learn more about Lora on her website. If you would like to volunteer to help Lora with her campaign, I believe there will be information there. If you'd like to donate, feel free to do that as well. Folks are always asking how can I help in my area? What can I do to participate in this election? That is not just voting. And, it's door knocking, handing out flyers. It's talking to your neighbors about candidates. It's about discovering what is important to you for changes in your backyard. So Transcona, and anyone listening who want to help Lora, you don't have to live in Transcona to help her out. Yeah, just get in touch and support those candidates that make you feel hopeful for a better Winnipeg.
I don't think we talk enough about donating, because here's the thing. You can't print signs. The money that you donate towards a campaign, you get about 75% of it back the following year as a rebate. So take a look at their website and donate, because they can't win if they can't print signs, put flyers in your mailbox, organize events to educate people. They're not pocketing this money. This money is audited. There's someone that looks line by line to see where the money was spent. And it's really hard for a candidate to win without money. So don't be shy, listener. Go find which candidate in your ward you're supporting and donate. And if you think, I need this woman to get into council, I need this person to get into council, go to their website and donate. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Right? Is it not
Perfect.
right? Am I saying
Perfect,
it, or
yes.
what?
No.
Yeah.
And also, I would say, as women, we have a really hard time asking for help. Like Lora, single mom to four kids. Yeah, no big deal. I can imagine the dark night of the soul.
Never mind kids. Come on.
And that community piece is really important. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Lifting heavy. She's lifting heavy.
Exactly. So give help, ask for help.
Yes.
That's what you should do.
Thank you, listeners, for staying with us right to the end. And remember, City Hall works for you. And this October,
vote October 28th. I'm sorry, I failed you.
It's okay. No, you
okay.
didn't. You didn't. We just usually say tell your babe to vote, but you're a babe, so you can just vote.
Tell your babe to vote.
That's right.
I'm just used to being a babe, Patty. I'm just used to being a babe.
Now you're spoiled. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.